Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order, minutes, resolution 2467 to accept the minutes of March 20, 2024.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Workshop, abatement appeal deliberation, Cray, Halmira. So.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I noticed neither one are, they're not here. Were they supposed to be here? They don't care? What's the story?
No, it was posted and they didn't want to, because there was no public comment or further comment provided during deliberations. So they're not here. They're waiting,
Okay, so-
they're waiting to hear what you say.
But they knew they could be here.
Yes, they could,
But were not.
they could
Okay.
watch, but, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, I'll start off and basically state that looking at all the information that's been provided us, I feel that because of all the ponds in Halmira, only one pond, one body of water has been separated into two classifications, that creates a arbitrary, capricious, and somewhat gerrymandered nature of the taxation, especially where this pertains to the shore frontage. So I would submit that we send it back to the assessors, the Halmira Board of Assessors, to rectify that discriminatory practice. Any other?
My view would be this. First of all, I think the taxpayer has the burden of proof, and I think Mr. Cray has at least generated enough evidence so far to make, to get him to first base, so to speak. And I think at that point, and we have to, I guess we're supposed to decide whether it's manifestly wrong, the appraisal, and I think he sort of made a case for that. But we heard from Mr. Robinson, and he had all sorts of reasons why it was okay, and I don't think that really was very convincing, at least not for me. And as Commissioner Sick has, I think, very wisely pointed out, we need more comparable sales to figure out, well, let me back up a little bit. We're trying to figure out what the value of the lots are, not the houses, not the whole package, but just the underlying real estate. And as I understand it, the only way you can figure out what the value of land is by comparable sales. You can't use the so-called income approach or the cost approach because those don't apply. So we need more comparable sales to determine what the value of Mr. Cray's land is vis-a-vis the other land across the lake and all other land around the pond, in order to determine what is the value of this lot really should be. And I do think under the statute and under the case law, we as the commissioners are supposed to figure out what that value is. I don't think we send it back to the town, and I think if we did, we'd be creating all sorts of consternation, confusion, and discontent. Because I don't think the town is going to want us telling them to do it again. So what I think we need to do is to open the evidence up again and ask for more information pertaining to comparable sales going back in time. And I think Tim has managed to come up with some of that information, which I think we should consider. And I guess we should formally open the record and accept that as additional evidence and allow the parties, if we're opening up the evidence, to submit additional evidence if they want to. And then based on all that information, I think we have to decide, one, whether or not there is a manifest wrong in the assessment, and I think we're close to that already, and then going to the second step, we need to decide what the value of the lot is. And I'm just, by way of hypothetical, if we find out that lots on so-called Area 51 are sold at typically half the value of comparable property on Area 30, we could then make a finding that the land lots on one side of the lake are worth twice what they are on the other side of the lake, or at least make some rough calculation in that way. And if we find out that they're all pretty much the same, with variations for the quality of the house, et cetera, then I think we would come to a decision that all the lots ought to be valued on the same per footage number, instead of this sort of gross deviation that we have right now. So it's a very loquacious statement of my opinion, but, and the other thing is, I just do not understand, I would just say parenthetically, I just reject this notion that the appraiser can use sort of shorthand to just sort of calculate the value of a lot by, quote, looking at the so-called neighborhood, which, if these neighborhoods existed 40 years ago, well, that was 40 years ago, and I think modern assessing wouldn't, I mean, as I said the other day, I've looked at all the books, and there's nothing about neighborhoods. I mean, I could see how you'd appraise all the houses within a subdivision that are all created at the same time, and the same lot size, and basically the same buildings as, quote, a neighborhood where they're all appraised the same. But to somehow say that lots on one side of the lake are ipso facto going to be valued at half the value of the other side of the lake because they're in a so-called neighborhood, to me, is just bad. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there, that's why I was saying that.
To sum up my long answer, I think we should take more evidence, I think we should look at the comps, because that's the only way we can figure out what this property is worth. I think it's on us to decide what the property is worth. I don't think we should send it back to the town. I don't think that's what the statute wants us to do, or allows us to do. So, thank you.
Any further comments?
Yeah, tend to agree with John on this. We do need to have more information in terms of value. I thought originally maybe this should go back to the town, but there does seem to be some rule of unfair assessment here, I think, and we need to look at it further and see if we can help as commissioners.
So myself personally, I agree with a lot of what has been said. I feel like, and during the hearing, I had said over and over, I really feel like we need more current assessment. We are in a sort of this odd period of time because of COVID and the unbelievable effect that it had on real estate, especially in our area. So more information on that would be good. My question is, what are our options as far as action as commissioners? Do you have that already, Tim?
Yes, according to the tax bulletin that kind of guides this process, if the commissioners think the applicant is overassessed, the applicant is then granted such a reasonable abatement as the commissioners think proper. So that leads me to think that the commissioners are kind of duty-bound to make a determination, is he overassessed by 50,000, 100,000? And it's reasonable amongst you, that's the answer. Now, to do that, to the points that's been made a couple of times, you would need to ask Palmyra or their assessor's agent to provide you with more historical data going back several years. From the conversation at the last meeting, the assessor said he provided 2 comp sales, both of them were from 2022. Information that's available through the Maine Revenue website, I took a half hour, 30 minutes, and I looked up Palmyra, and I looked up all the different codes for sales, and I went back to 2005, so just about 20 years, and there are 23 sales that, not just family to family, $0, there's 23 sales that had sale prices in map 14 in Palmyra, which is White's Pond. Now, I found those 23 sales, like I said, in 30 minutes. I chose not to go any further because I didn't think that was my responsibility. So I don't know if all 23 sales are in Area 51 or Neighborhood 30. I don't know if it's land only or if there are buildings on it. So if you chose to say to Palmyra, we'd like you to go back 20 years and give us all the sales in map 14 around White's Pond, I know they could give you at least almost a couple dozen. And then they should break that down to say, okay, it sold for $176,000, it was valued for $100,000. It was sold in this year, it was sold on this side of the pond or as opposed to this side of the pond. If you're gonna ask Palmyra's assessors to do something, I would recommend that they do that. Bring that information back. Since you've asked for more information from the town, you also open it up so if Mr. Cray wanted to come back with more information, he could do so. And then from that data, to Commissioner Alsop's point, you might be able to get a formula that says, okay, these are about twice as high on this side of the pond as opposed to this side of the pond, and then use that. Right now, the water frontage formula that they're using is skewed to about 5 times higher. So it's 5 times higher for waterfront in neighborhood 30 as opposed to neighborhood 51. So the additional data might help you make that determination of value. But I'd say your first step is going back to the town and saying, we'd like you to provide us this analysis.
So in what Commissioner Steckles has said, to have pre-COVID sales and starting to get post-COVID sales, I think would be key because the market is, again, right now adjusting. So, I mean, I think we need to have a broader, 2022 is just not a good place to get those prices.
I think just looking down the road, where we are the sort of court of last resort for disgruntled taxpayers in most of the smaller municipalities in the county, we could see a lot of these. Or not a lot, but, more than we've seen recently. Because everyone's valuations are going up and there's a disproportionate tax rate because blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I think we have to be very careful about what we do in terms of policy and so forth. We ought to decide just what's in front of us. So if we decide hypothetically that taxpayer A's taxes on his land is $60,000 instead of $200,000, and we make that judgment, we file that order, and it's appealed, and if that becomes the law of the case, so to speak, that's all we do. And then the town, I just suggested, we don't want to tell the town they're all wrong, or they have to redo everything, that's not what we're doing. They may decide after they get that decision that they've got to fix their assessments, but that's their job, we don't have to micromanage that, we're not telling them what to do, we're just sort of a court of appeal. But I think we have a lot of these cases coming up, so I think it's important that we have a pretty strict procedure, just decide what's in front of us. And if it involves land values, I think we really need to look at comps, because there's really no other way of figuring out what's worth. Unless there's a gold mine or something. There's no way of assessing its value. So.
Well, I would be of the mind of the request that Tim laid out.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we reopen the evidentiary phase of the case and to accept further evidence. And we could either, I guess, just accept data from Maine Revenue Service, or in the alternative, ask the town to produce the same evidence and afford an opportunity for Mr. Cray to introduce any other evidence, since we're opening it up. Continue to our next hearing for that purpose, and then, and I guess that would be my motion. Did you get all that, Tim?
No, but there is a chance for you to do it again, because Resolution 2468 pertains to this abatement, so.
Good. I'll practice up. Okay. That's too much coffee.
All right, ready to move on until we get down to 2468? We're good for workshop number 2, charter review?
I put a couple of sheets in your paper, of paper in your packets that mainly pertain to the process that we're in right now as the Budget Committee has started reviewing the budget. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that our charter has specific to the budget procedure and the Budget Committee. And part of it is timing. I think we've started on time. They met Monday night. There'll be another meeting on April 29th. So there's plenty of time to get it done before the deadlines as prescribed here prior to the end of the fiscal year. The finality of the budget, letter F, is unique to only two counties. Somerset and Aroostook are the only two counties where the Budget Committee has the final say. If there's a disagreement between the commissioners and the Budget Committee, after the Budget Committee sends it back, a 2/3 vote of the commissioners can change it and send it back to the Budget Committee. If the Budget Committee rejects it with a 2/3 vote, it's final. So they have the final say on it. The only other thing I'd just point out to draw to your attention is what the powers of the commissioners are once the budget's been approved. You do have the power to change and transfer amounts within the same department. If there's savings in one part of a department budget and you want to spend it in another part of that same department's budget, you have the ability to do that. If you want to do amendments to raise a department budget during the budget season, that requires approval of both the commissioners and the Budget Committee. So I thought I'd just touch on that briefly, see if there's any questions. You can read about it or you can watch it live on April 29th.
So Kevin, in section F, past the highlighted areas, something that really caught my eye was, says the Board of Commissioners may not further increase, decrease, alter, or revise the full budget as adopted by the Budget Committee except for 2/3 vote of the full board of the full board. And then it goes on to full Budget Committee membership.
Right.
So when it says full Budget Committee membership, basically the vote can only be held when all members are actually present to vote.
Or I could read that to say, like Monday night, we had 8 members present. And so that would be 80%. So if you had at least 7 members vote in one particular way, that would be 2/3 of the full membership.
Yeah, there's a gray area there, because
There is.
full membership is normally all the people that are allowed to vote, not necessarily the people that are present.
Well, it's a 2/3 vote of its full Budget Committee membership. Doesn't mention being present or not.
It's right, so so in that case, membership, which would be.
Right, 7 out of 10 would be 2/3 in my mind. Yeah.
So if there were enough that were present, that would make up a 2/3 regardless of who was there or not.
Yeah.
All right, it's just, yeah, it just stood out as being sort of odd. All right. Thanks, didn't really solve anything, but.
At least you're aware. You're aware.
Well, 2/3 votes of the commissioners would be 3,
Right.
so.
You did that math in your head?
I did it in my head.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that wonderful? I'm glad that you're impressed.
I'm good.
I know, I appreciate your praise, I'm telling you. It's just- So are we all set with Charlie and you? We good? Okay. And then we have bid opening for snow removal of the courthouse and comm center. This one is from Central Maine Septic. And we have, just wondering if there's anybody here from Central Maine Septic or from the other. Let's see. let's see, September 2024 to August 2025, $23,449. Is that, there's a breakdown, and then there's, for the year, September 2025 to August 2026, it would be $24,033, and then for September 2026 to August 2027, the full amount would be $24,633.
So just to clarify, that was Central Maine Septic, and the first number was 23,349?
That's for the first year.
Yep, then
Or first one.
24,033,
Then 24,033.
and then
Were we
24,630.
soliciting a 3-year?
We are, I didn't want to interrupt the chair, but this is a bid for, the current contract ends in August, and this was to pick up in September of '24 and run through August of '27.
And who did the last one?
Richard Prentice, which I believe is the other bid.
How much did we pay for the last year?
Oh, I don't have that right off the top of my head.
Okay, let's see what we got here.
$9,000.
Three-year bid. This is from Prentice Builders. For a 3-year term, the first year, September 2024 to August 2025, is $18,000. The second year, September 2025 to August 2026, is $18,000. And the third year of 2026 to 2027 is $18,000.
I'd have to double check, but I don't think that's a whole lot different than what we paid him last time. Richard Prentice has had this contract for 15 years or so.
So I said I didn't want to complain, so.
If you want to see them.
We had a pre-bid meeting on Thursday, and both these folks were here. And Mike Smith was here from EMA, and Nelson Palmer was here, our maintenance man. And we did clarify some things to make sure that they got done properly. But for the most part, the biggest concern is timing and convincing the contractor or whoever's driving for them that if they're going to start plowing at 4 a.m., plow the comm center first, then the courthouse. And for whatever reason, that was a sticking point this year. Sometimes they would come plow the courthouse at 4:30 and then go to the comm center. And the shift change at the comm center is 5 a.m. So there's people coming and going at 5 a.m. that should be plowed out first.
And the courthouse is invariably closed, at least we say.
At 4 a.m. it is, so. Point noted.
Except if Tim is working early.
Just working from home,
I expect you to meet with me here tomorrow at 8:30.
if you like.
Okay.
So later on in the agenda, there is a resolution to accept the bid. I did talk with Mike Smith and Nelson after the bid meeting last week. We think we communicated well their concerns, and Mike said, his recommendation would be to take the low bid. He didn't have a preference one way or the other on the contractors.
All right. No public hearing, public comment to allow members of the public to comment or reserve time to speak on an upcoming agenda item. Is there anybody from the public here who wishes to speak or reserve time to speak? Seeing none. New agenda items, commissioners only. Nothing.
I just wanted to bring up something under this because it was mentioned at the last meeting whether this was a proper way to put this item on the agenda. And is it legal, per se, to put new agenda items on? It is if you have a policy, and the commissioners have a policy, and I slipped a little piece of paper into your packets there, that basically says that the commissioners have the ability to waive the standard posting in a case of emergency to add an agenda item, but it must be agreed by all the commissioners. So just wanted to clarify that for if anybody had any questions.
Thank you. Finance, reporting.
Unfortunately, boring, no change. We're still tracking to be roughly 1.3 million payable on the general budget, and the jail is about 2.2 million. Headcount as of today is 135, same as the end of March, so we're at least holding steady. We've got 12 open positions.
And you provided that here for us. Thank you. Administrator report.
I'm a little more enthusiastic about the budget than Patrick is. I think we're doing great. I mean, half empty, half full. No, as many of you are aware, we had our first budget meeting Monday night. The negotiations with the corrections continues, and Commissioner Johnson has been very helpful with that. And in his absence, Commissioner Seekins will step in and be the board representation on those meetings. And other than that, that's enough to keep you busy. So.
Christian.
Well, good afternoon. On the broadband front, we started conversations with Consolidated Communications. They did receive a state grant to run fiber up 201. We were fearful there might be some gaps or pockets they're not serving, which we confirmed yesterday. So we're going to try to help 47 locations around Parliament Pond get fiber, and we have funds for that. So we'll hopefully get that connection. That project, they've been hesitant on putting out a timeline for completion, but it looks like probably year end 24, maybe early 25. And that will really round out our fiber network for the county. So we continue with our digital equity and inclusion program. Part of that is opening a tech lab in Bingham, and that will be open in a couple weeks. We'll probably iron out some wrinkles in a soft opening, and then invite you all to a ribbon cutting at some point.
What was the first part of that, Christian?
Which one? I just said a lot.
The Bingham, what's going on in Bingham?
We're opening a tech lab at the former Quimby School. That'll be public access to computers, tech support, telehealth, conference rooms, private co-working space. So, and then tonight we should confirm the town of Norwalk will be managing their revolving loan program for them. They have a pretty healthy TIF with waste management, and instead of giving or granting the money away every year, they want to start doing some community lending. So we'll do that on their behalf. And with that, we'll also be cutting the county a check for the loans we've been administering. So we'll be giving you money back.
Wonderful. Question?
I had a question about the broadband. I never quite figured this out. I apologize for being ignorant, but if I have a little house sort of 3 miles south of Parliament Pond, like off 201, and I want to sign up for high-speed internet, when it's all done, is there going to be a vendor that I talk to, or do I, where does the rubber meet the road there? How do I actually get my high-speed internet in my shanty on the sides of 201? How do I do that?
Is that hypothetical, or is it actually that location?
Well, that's hypothetical.
Okay.
But it just,
It depends which provider's in the area. So most of Somerset, if you go on our website, it has all the providers, and you can essentially say who's in my area. It is kind of a grueling process for some people, because it's a good problem having 2 or 3 or 4 providers in an area, but up and down 201 is consolidated. We did identify probably a dozen properties not getting connected yesterday, but they're a mile off the road and there's no electricity, so we can't spend $100,000 to get to one home with no electricity. So
it's all wide open.
I mean, if they want to be off grid, they can they can be off-grid.
So it's all running a wire from a central,
Yeah, so they would essentially splice off the road, and then sometimes they just lay fiber down on the ground, sometimes they put it in conduit. It's more common than you'd think, just laying the fiber cable on the ground. You think there'd be trouble, but usually it's left alone, so, yeah.
Who actually is making that decision as far as what is too far to go on the last mile?
Usually it is the provider, and if they have any state subsidies or grants, that grantor may say, look, we need you to reach these locations. The mapping's pretty impressive, but it also, there's like the east side of Parlin Pond with no electricity. I mean, there's camps there, but,
Yeah.
to go halfway around the pond and people only can get it off a generator, I mean, it doesn't make sense, so.
well, so let's say we're in Todd's Corners. Is this program extend all over the county, or are we just talking Route 201 corridor, or?
The fiber bill?
Yeah.
It's mostly the 201 corridor.
So if you're up in East Ripley, you're not gonna, if it's not available to your local phone company, this program we're doing is not affecting anybody except people on the Route 201 corridor, is that?
No, just that bill. I mean, Ripley has TDS's expanded fiber. So I can definitely share with you all some links, and it gets pretty detailed, so it's real boring real quick, but kind of a fiber map, if you will. But there's very few properties now by the end of this year that would have updated service. That should last decades.
Thank you.
Curious question, so I know initially with the corridor, they were gonna be running fiber along the corridor as well. Is that still happening? Because there's a very close run between the 201 corridor and the 201 and the corridor, both running fiber. Is that?
It's ironic because that's been a huge gap, and now we'll have 3 fiber networks there. So it's Consolidated is running their own. I was surprised the state approved that grant, because the state is also running their own middle mile network up and down 201. So there's
You're on the what network?
a fiber optic net, middle mile. It's kind of like long haul. And then there's the CMP corridor fiber network. So that's 3. So the ownership of the corridor fiber asset is still being negotiated. And I'm trying to see if we can maybe blend the two, because it just seems like a duplicative effort.
We can take some of that fiber and make it into chest plates for our police officers.
And so it's a valuable asset. I think worst case scenario, it can, say the 201 system goes down, it will be tied into some of those other ones to remain up and running. But I'll probably have a lot more news on that in a month. So I can update you. But yes, 3 networks.
Netflix.
Redundancy. Very good. And I can't see the person behind you, Christian. Hi.
That's because he's Jake from the Morning Sentinel.
He's Jake from the Morning Sentinel, okay.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Corrections.
At the jail, we are holding steady at 5 vacancies. As the county administrator said, we are in the midst of renegotiating our Teamsters contract, because that's up for renewal. We're hoping that once that's finalized, hopefully more of the public will have an appetite to join our ranks. We also have one of our transport officers currently at the Law Enforcement Pre-Service Academy. That's 1 out of 2 transport officers who we have full-time that will be going through that. That will give them their credentials to be deputized, because when we have corrections officers on transport, especially with our federal inmates, where they have the firearms. It's just an extra layer of protection and credibility that they do have those certifications when they're out on the road.
Questions, comments? That's it. Thank you. Sheriff?
We've been very busy. Presently, the chief and Lieutenant Knight, patrol commander, are in Jackman attending the final solar eclipse meeting for a run-up for that. We will have additional deputies patrolling 201 in the Jackman area on Monday. Patrol had about roughly around 300 calls for service. Last Saturday night, we covered a fatal in Palmyra on Route 2. We were able to use our the drone that we just recently purchased to help map that scene. CID was extremely busy last week. We executed 2 search warrants on illegal grows in the county. We also executed a search warrant in Cambridge, solved a couple burglaries, and our crimes against person detective arrested a gentleman in Bingham for 5 counts of gross sexual assault. So we've been really busy the last couple of weeks. And lastly, at some point, I'd like to have a conversation with the commissioners about the possibility of enhancing our bid process language to be favorable to businesses in Somerset County.
Thank you. Anyone have that conversation now? It sounds like a workshop for...
Yeah, I mean, it is a workshop. I'd like to be able to sit down with the county administrator and come up with language that you would all find acceptable.
We can put that on a workshop for next...
And you know, I just feel strongly that if possible, we should keep Somerset, and I know you all feel the same, but we should keep Somerset County tax money in Somerset County if we can.
Just a quick question on the whole eclipse thing.
Wear your glasses. Wear your glasses.
I know there's a big risk plan of 7 days. Do you foresee not having the manpower you need?
No, we've added additional shifts. We now have 2 deputies in the UT that we're going to have them both working. We put on, I think 3, we put on 3 extra deputies. We have Lieutenant Knight who's going to be in the command post. I'm going to be up and about that area also. So, and part of that operation is going to be the state police are bringing some troopers up to watch also watch the 2-1 corridor. I mean, the eclipse is only around 5 minutes tops, but it's the traffic that's going to be associated with that we're going to be monitoring.
So are we going to try to stop people from parking on the side of the road, is it?
No, I don't think there's anything illegal to park on the side of the road, but you can't obstruct traffic, right? So, and we'll be, again, this is a 5-minute event,
Yeah.
so I don't believe they're going to be camping out, hopefully, on the side of the road, but after, and we're not looking to be strong hand, but for those emergency, we have to keep the road clear, and again, this is 5 minutes. Hopefully after 5 minutes, the traffic will start moving again.
You're gonna have to remind people to put their headlights on when it's dark.
If they all try to turn around and head south at the same time.
And there have been discussions about the migration south.
They should reverse direction and then park.
So the reason I asked you that question, Sheriff, was that there's been a lot of talk from folks in that area about the concern of property owners not wanting people on their property and that being a major issue.
In fact, that's why we've ramped up on personnel to handle those calls. They're really trespass calls, inconvenient nuisance calls. Well, that's what we're dealing with.
Because allowance of that would be a liability to the county. People were starting to go on people's property and.
That's right.
I don't know if it'd be a liability of the county, but we're going to be there to assist in those situations, if they arise.
Any further? Tanya?
Yes. I know the commissioners are aware that we had a little glitch with our e-filing this month. It was down for 3.5 days. Fortunately, there have been no negative effects from that we know of. No issues with race to record or cleanliness of titles or anything like that. And I did want to just give Pavel and Jonathan a shout out that the customer service was just on point with that whole thing. Every time I asked for an update, they didn't respond with a phone call or an email. They came up in person and talked to us. So I really appreciated that, and so did the team. I just wanted to let you know that how it went. So thank you.
Thank you. Comments or questions? Pavel?
So we're in the second phase of the jail of that camera and access control project. So they started programming the access control and they installed a new server, so that's the second phase. Fiber splicing for EOC building that has been completed, so we're ready to install new networking equipment over there. And the firewalls project, so courthouse and the jail firewalls were replaced. So we left with a comm center.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. David?
Two things that have been being worked on now for a while. The FEMA grant, the last step that completed last week was sending in the damage inventory and the estimated money to do the repairs. I had Phil work that out. He gave me all the numbers and I sent that on. The other thing is getting the gravel pit in Lexington licensed. I have filled out most paperwork. There's a few odds and ends I think that are still to do. But I sent in what I had to Land Use Planning Commission. Let them look it over, let me know what else they required. One of the last things we're going to do is have to pay our fee, because they won't grant anything without a fee, but we don't know what the fee is yet, so we're kind of working towards that.
Good.
Give them 100 yards of free gravel.
Yeah.
Okay, no unfinished business, new business, resolution 2468, to approve the finding of facts from Craig Palmyra abatement appeal and send the findings to the town of Palmyra.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, this is what I gathered from the workshop. A motion would be something to the effect of to continue this hearing to the next meeting and request additional sales data from the town of Palmyra back 20 years and allow for the plaintiff to provide additional evidence. Does that cover it?
Yes.
And would you like to sponsor that motion?
Yes, I would make that motion. I have a little wish list of other things, but I don't know whether, I mean.
Why don't we have a second, then we can open it up for discussion?
I would second that.
Okay, thank you. So now we're open for discussion. Would love to hear your wish list.
Well, just in general, just in terms of trying to decide this case, I'd like to know, we heard a lot about how Area 30 was more valuable than Area 51 because the lots were, quote, grandfathered. And I'd be interested to know how many lots or houses, et cetera, are grandfathered in Area 51.
So the term you're looking for is non-conforming.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily grandfathered.
Would the sales data that we're talking about reflect
The
that?
sales data would not tell you whether they're non-conforming lots. But that is something that you can add in your request if you want the assessors to identify what lots are non-conforming. You could almost do it by looking at the tax map, because every lot that has less than 200 feet of shore frontage is non-conforming. So I could tell you how many there are.
Right, well, I was looking at the map myself, and I noticed that the lot that the appellant was comparing his lot to looked like a pretty small, non-conforming lot.
Right.
And the whole basis for him paying more, I mean, it didn't seem to me that the assessor was adding value to that non-conforming lot in the same way that he added value to the...
Right, because he did it by neighborhood.
Yeah,
Right.
because he did it by neighborhood. So, I don't, and the other thing which I think would be interesting, maybe we get this, is I'd just like to know what the land assessments are for, right now, for all of the lots all around the lake.
Yep.
Is that too is that too much
Actually, I believe Mr. Cray already provided that.
for every single lot?
He did. He had about 20 pages worth of handwritten notes that I didn't feel that were germane to the conversation.
So that's really available?
But I think I have that.
Okay, well, I'd like to look at that.
All right.
So those are the additions I had to my wish list.
I think I can provide that without putting that burden on the town of Palmyra.
Okay.
So,
Dean's already provided it, so that would be from Dean.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Then you might want to let them know that Dean has provided that. They probably do know that, but... Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. We can get more information and we'll come back for another agenda item later on. Resolution 2469, to pay from community benefit funds $15,000 to the St. Albans Fire Department as awarded in the matching grant approved December 20th, 2023.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Let's go. Resolution 2470, to award the bid for contracted plowing at the courthouse and communications center.
I move we accept the bid of the Prentice bid, I'm not sure of the
Yep, let's,
bid.
Yeah, 18,000.
a second?
Second.
Discussion? Question?
I will be recusing myself from this vote, as one of the bids is a family member.
Well done, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? And one abstain.
All right.
Resolution 2471, to accept the resignation of probationary deputy Jacob McDonald for the Somerset Sheriff's Office.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Resolution 2472, to approve the hiring of corrections officers Sarah Pinkham and Blake Gronda at the Somerset County Jail.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? No capital reserves, unoverride territory, warrants. Resolution 2473, to approve the treasurer's warrant for general funds, Somerset County Jail, unorganized territories, and TIF community benefit for a total of $379,663.82.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? So go. Miscellaneous discussion items, commissioners only. Anything? No? Good, okay. So, executive session, Title I, Section 4056A, Personnel, Somerset County Jail grievance of notice of dismissal.
I move we go into executive session.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? We are in executive session. Any other discussion?
Well, just to follow up on you, I mean, I'm all, if there was a possibility of a friendly or a resignation or a, that's great, but is that what you're proposing? You know, you arguing against my motion, or?
Yeah,
are you-
I'm not in favor of your motion. I would rather present this letter of general release and agreement.
I think that we should go with the motion that John made and allow Jim, as we're comfortable with it, to continue discussions with Joe, the person involved.
Any further discussion, thoughts, consideration? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll show you.
Where am I?